I was in Miami last year, and since I'm from there, the entire crowd was against me. I thought, what on earth is going on? Like, what is the origin of these individuals? At the 2026 Dubai Championships, Jessica Pagula, the current Dubai champion and a woman who has competed in front of boisterous audiences on 4 continents, was standing inside her hotel and was unable to fall asleep. This was not due to nervousness or match preparation, but rather because the crowd outside was too loud for her to ignore. Particularly at night, you can hear the audience roaring. Pagula said, "You can hear it from the hotel. At night, the roar of the crowd is audible. It's amazing." The player that the supporters were cheering for did not make it to the championship game. Even though she had already lost, there was more support for Alex Eala than for the tournament winner. Chris Eubanks, a former ATP professional, is currently on live television at Indian Wells while she is in California. She has been able to fill stadiums, and her nation's devotion for her is quite remarkable, publicly stating that before someone is harmed, the tournament organizers should move her to a larger court. The next 48 hours at Indian Wells are going to give you something to talk about for years. So, subscribe now to stay inside this story. Yes, Alex is incredible. You must go back precisely 14 months to January 2025 in order to comprehend what is currently going on in California. 20-year-old Alex Eala, who was rated 147th in the world, had no significance in the tennis community. A player at the wildcard level from a nation that has never produced a player in the top 100 in the 53-year history of the WTA. That was 14 months ago. She entered the Miami Open as a wild card on March 31, 2025, and defeated 3 Grand Slam winners in a row. The 2016 Roland Garros champion is Zelina Ostapenko. The current Australian Open champion is Madison Keys. She then faced off against Iga Swiatek, the second-ranked player in the world with 5 Grand Slam victories in the quarterfinals. The player who has dominated women's tennis for the past 3 years. Eala's final score was 6-2, 7-5. The stadium changed, not merely cheered. Every row that could be seen was packed with Filipino flags. Before Swiatek arrived to the locker room, the sound had traveled from Miami to Manila. Over the next 9 months, a career did not emerge. It was an unprecedented series of firsts in Philippine sports history. The Guadalajara won 125 in September, the first Filipina to win 2 WTA Tour titles, and the first Filipina in the WTA Top 100, the first Filipina to triumph in a main draw Grand Slam match, the first Filipina to rank in the top 50. Each of the 8 distinct records was a door that had been locked for 53 years and was opened in a single year. By December 2025, Alex Eala was featured on the cover of Vogue Philippines in a joint picture session with Nike. Her racket wrapped with a Philippine national flower. A player had become a symbol. Tennis had become a culture. And then came the moment that made all of this clear. Rafael Nadal, who has won 22 Grand Slam championships, announced his retirement from competitive tennis in November 2025. A man returned to the practice court at his own academy after a year without using a racket in competition. He made the decision to return to the sport he had devoted his life to. He decided to work out with Alex Eala. 1 year later, he said it was wonderful to be back. The man who established the academy that shaped her. The man whose courts she spent 7 years honing her footwork. For her, he returned to tennis. She is the first Filipino to be seeded in a WTA 1000 event. Coming to Indian Wells 2026, ranked 32nd in the world and seeded 31st. Additionally, the arena is already adapting to her presence before she plays a single competitive point. However, this acknowledgement and accommodation were not given freely. One disastrous error at a time. The tennis establishment had to be pulled in its direction. The Australian Open in January 2026 marked the beginning of the pattern. Court 6 was set to host Nyla's debut Grand Slam main draw match, a momentous occasion for the entire country. About 1,400 people can fit inside. A location designed for games in the qualifying round. The tournament did not anticipate that anyone would attend the player-sized facility. Lines of Filipino supporters stretched throughout the stadium. There were hundreds of people shut out. Several accounts say that Australian Open authorities were compelled to make a public statement due to the large crowds outside Court 6. In his Bounces newsletter, renowned tennis journalist Ben Rothenberg claimed 20-year-old Alex Eala of the Philippines was crowned as the most popular player in tennis right now by acclaim of the throngs who waited in vain for a chance to see her on the ludicrously limited stage. Court 6, then Dubai, February 2026, was the institution's reaction to the coronation. During the Middle East swing, Eala was first assigned unfavorable scheduling times by the WTA Tour. There was an immediate and clear backlash. The Tennis Gazette claims that the WTA Tour ultimately made the right Alex Eala scheduling choice with the word finally in that headline, carrying out the necessary editorial work. It's March 2026 now. Chris Eubanks is publicly stating on live television on the Indian Wells grounds. Hopefully, we're able to get her in a big court so everyone can stay safe around the grounds. The term safe is not ornamental. It serves as a caution. This is real-time Chapter 3 of the same institutional failure. A spreadsheet does not include the proof of what Alex Eala has created. It exists in the testimonies of those who witnessed it firsthand and were unable to put it into words. The number should come first. January 2025, 147th in the globe. March 2026, number 32 in the world. 14 months, 48 ranking spots increased. Before her first match was even scheduled, she went from being a wild card that no one acknowledged in draw previews to becoming the focus of a live segment on Tennis Channel from inside the Indian Wells Stadium. Put yourself in Jessica Pegula's shoes at Miami 2025. She is in the top 5, competing at home in her own state, in front of her home crowd, and in the semifinals. When she enters the court, the audience does not belong to her. Paula stated, "I was playing against an American in Miami, but the stadium was packed with Filipinos. What in the world is happening? I thought, what was the origin of these individuals?" That match was won by Pegula. She made it to the final, and she continues to discuss the audience rather than the victory. Indian Wales was not where the army was constructed. It wasn't constructed in Dubai. Out of the 110 million people who had been waiting, it arrived fully developed. This is the case for generations to come. What the army already knew about itself was validated by the Australian Open 2026. He grabbed the only recent analogy that made sense. The adolescent Brazilian who had ignited the men's circuit the previous year was Jo Alana. According to Johnson, she is having the same impact on every court as Fana did on the men's team in Miami last year. The court in Australia was a standing room only, then Dubai only standing space. It's enormous. The institution has been sluggish to grasp the commercial aspect which Eisner emphasized. I believe many people misjudged the size of that market. On the women's side of the game, they have a star at last. The plainest of the three quarry said that winning a slam would be one of the biggest things in the world. 9 days ago that conversation took place. She reached Indian Wells, where there are around 2 million Filipino Americans living in California alone. 2 days later, Paul Annacone led Roger Federer to 6 more Grand Slam victories and Pete Sampras to 14. He has more Grand Slam coaching credits than any other person in men's game history between those two individuals. He has personally witnessed what happens when a player transcends beyond a tennis outcome. This week he was on Tennis Channel Live in Indian Wells. When the topic of Alex Eala came up, he remarked, "She has a smile that lights up a room." That is not a report from a scout. This man, who has witnessed 20 Grand Slam victories from the coaching box, tells you that the player serve percent and forehand velocity cannot be quantified. Kim Clears, however, has the deeper authority stamp. There is no personal, cultural, or nationalistic motive to exaggerate this story. 4 Grand Slam victories, a former world number 1 and Belgian. When she saw what Alex Eala was carrying, she sought for the most famous athlete in American sports history rather than a tennis analogy. She had to cope with living like Michael Jordan in the Philippines. She needs to be somewhat shielded from the chaos that goes along with all of that, in my opinion. Jordan Michael Kim Clijsters, a 4-time Grand Slam champion, set a ceiling on a 20-year-old who was ranked 32nd in the world. She didn't use hyperbole when she said it. She warned about the pressure when she said that. Over the course of 2 weeks, Indian Wells attracts about 450,000 people. Aside from the 4 Grand Slams, it is the biggest tennis venue. 16,000 people can fit in Stadium 1. The tournament directors are currently dealing with a scheduling problem that stems from a player being too popular for the facilities, something they have never had to deal with in decades of staging this event. Nearly 2 million Filipino Americans live within driving distance of the Indian Wells Tennis Garden, making California the state with the highest concentration of Filipino immigrants on American soil. Eala''s rise from number 147 to seeded player has been seen by the same community. From the qualifier bubble to the main draw of the sport's top non-slam event, they now have a venue close enough to attend in numbers commensurate with the noise they have been creating from across the globe. The story has not yet been updated on the scoreboard. She is ranked 31st. She's not yet in the final. She hasn't achieved a Grand Slam victory. However, in press conferences, players who have won Grand Slams are the ones who get questioned about her. Eala versus on March 6th. Diana Yastraka made her competitive debut at this event in the round of 64. Coco Gauff, who defeated her 0-6-2-6 in Dubai 6 weeks ago, might face her again in the round of 32 if she advances. Then in late March, she goes to Miami, the city where it all began in 2025 as a seeded player, defending the run that altered everything rather than as an unknown wild card. The tennis establishment is still adjusting to its current situation. The viewers who discovered her at number 147 and kept up with every ranking update have been aware of her for a considerable amount of time. The world is coming to the same conclusion that you came to initially. Eala''s first major slam main draw participation came at the Australian Open, where she lost to Alicia Parks in 3 sets after winning the first set 6-0 in the chaotic Court 6. The game ought to have taken place on a stadium court. The theater where it was performed filled up so quickly that the overflow made headlines. Following the defeat, Eala wrote on Instagram, "Here in Dubai, 3 weeks of fighting with love and pride have come to an end." She also directly quoted fellow Filipina athlete Sabrina Santamaria in a subsequent article. "Playing in front of people who identify with you is an honor. I couldn't agree more." She continued, "Being able to do what you love with love is such a blessing." She ignored the hatred. She talked about the privilege. That isn't denial. That is a 20-year-old who is aware of what she is carrying and deliberately decides to hold it with open hands rather than clenched fists. She became the first Filipino in history to be a seeded player at a WTA 1000 event when she arrived in California 7 weeks later. Jessica Pagula was unable to fall asleep due to a disturbance. For the most well-known tennis player, there is a court that Ben Rothenberg referred to as an absurdly constrained stage. After a complete year of retirement, a man by the name of Rafael Nadal returned to a practice facility, picked up a racket, and struck with a player his academy had produced. A rating column that was at number 147 14 months ago is now at number 32, and the movement is still ongoing. Alex Eala didn't simply walk into the WT top 32. She created something inside a sport that did not have room for her until she made room for herself, ignited a diaspora, rewired a scheduling discourse, and made a generational authority figure reference Michael Jordan. She was assigned to Court 6 by the institution. The Army attended Court 6, and now Chris Eubanks is standing inside Tennis Paradise on television, pleading with LIV, the organizers, to provide her with a court large enough to prevent injuries. The pivotal match in Indian Wells 2026 has not yet taken place. However, the sport is already posing the appropriate question. Is this tournament large enough to accommodate her belongings? Here is the question for everyone watching right now. Please enter your response below. In 2026, will Alex Eala prevail at Indian Wells? If she succeeds, will it be the most memorable event in Philippine sports history? From now on, the stakes compound is present in every competition she competes in. The Army becomes louder with each match. The institution mishandles. March 6th marks the start of Indian Wells' next chapter. You already know that this is the point at which the entire arc has been building. If you have been following this story since Miami 2025, number 147, the Swatek upset, and the Court 6 callus, the next 48 hours at Indian Wells are going to give you something to speak about for years. So subscribe now and stay inside this tale. I feel down.